The most esoteric aspects of Judaism are dealt with in the most fundamental levels of the Torah, starting in Bereshis. These esoteric aspects of Judaism are normative, but quite frankly, unless you're a scholar, you haven't even probably heard of these words. Yibum and Halitza, Sota, Nazir. These are aspects that are not even studied normatively in the Talmud. They study more of the generic levels of Judaism, the Shabbos Gemara, the Brachos Gemara. So Yevamos, Sota, Nazir are tractates that are not studied much unless you're a real scholar, unless you're really like studying to be a rabbi. These deep levels are kept under wraps. And when you understand these levels, you'll understand more of the workings, the inner workings of the human psyche, which is what the entire Torah is about. We start off in the relationship of Adam and Eve. And Adam they're told not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then Eve eats from this tree, along with the serpent, so to speak. And then he gives that tree the fruit of that tree to Adam. So right there we have a tremendous amount of esoteric stuff. First of all, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of Das, of good and evil, is the grape tree, grape vine. Immediately, therefore, we have the Nazir, alluded to, because the Nazir is not supposed to eat grapes. So we're told from the very beginning in Gan Eden not to eat grapes. Then the relationship of Eve to the snake, where he has her eat grapes and shows her there's nothing wrong, nothing's going to happen to her. This is some sort of illicit relationship, an out of, say, marriage relationship with Eve and the snake. So this, therefore, this illicit relationship causes a sota finding. And when this comes about, the snake has to go on his belly, and he's no longer the vertical animal, but he becomes a horizontal animal. In other words, there's two things in the tractate Sota about the effect of the Sota. and that's it. The belly swells, and the yarek, the thigh, is like crippled. And so he had to go on his belly. This is an illusion, and he's no longer vertical. So the thigh and the gematria, by the way, of thigh, of yarech, is 20 for Yud, 500, that's 520 for Resh, and this is full gematria. And Kaf, 100, so that's 620, so that's Keter. Anyway, and Batan is the stomach, and Batna. There's a lot of good gematria there. We'll do some other time. In the meantime, so he has this relationship, and the snake gets punished by like what happens to the woman in a sota relationship, in a sota finding. And they get banished. And then Adam, who was a Nazir, you see, and they no problem being a Nazir. You see, because they weren't cutting hair in Gan Eden, and they weren't eating grapes. And quite frankly, he's a Shimshon Nazir, because later on, Shimshon is a rectification of the soul of Adam. And obviously he was a Shimshon Nazir because he was from the beginning, from the womb, so to speak. And the Shimshon Nazir is allowed to be associated with the dead. So the difference between the Shimshon Nazir and all the other Nazirs and even Nazir Olam is that a Shimshon Nazir does not get tameh from being associated with the dead, or in my opinion, even by Nida, which represents the dead. And so he's a Shimshon Nazir, which means he didn't have to cut his hair, never cut his hair, and he never had grapes. As soon as he had grapes, he was no longer a Nazir. And so if he's no longer a Nazir, he's expelled from where he was. He's brought back into the community, so to speak. The community starts, he's out. He's out of Gan Eden. Being out of Gan Eden and into the community, that's the punishment. It's not that he was banished into the community. It's a deep concept there. Now, so the Nazir and the Sota are there. And then a really deep concept is covered here by, they have Cain and Abel. And then Cain murders Abel. Cain murders Heber. But to understand the depth of this, please understand that each of these was born with a twin. Cain had a twin. But the real secret here is that Heber, Abel, had two twin girls. Cain had a twin born with a twin girl, and Abel had two twins in the womb with him. They were triplets, 2 girls and a boy. And so here's the real problem in life. The real problem came when, theoretically, say you married your twin. There weren't people around. You married your twin sister. And this was permitted at this time. So Cain married his twin. Abel married his twin, and there was another twin. And Abel wanted to marry that twin, but Cain wanted to marry Abel's other sister, the third of the triplet, the second girl in the womb. And theoretically, that's why he killed her, killed Abel to marry the sister. This is a yibum. This is a yibum. Why? Because the girl was childless, so to speak. And so he continues the line of Cain, of Abel, by Cain marrying his sister. Then it says a strange word for Cain. Cain says, and Cain knew his wife and conceived and Ishato knew his wife. Ishato, but whose wife was it? So here's my theory here in Yiddish, that Hevel, Abel, married his other twin. He was married to both twins. And that twin didn't have any children. He got killed, and Cain knew Ishato, his wife, really meaning Hevel's wife, his second wife. It's a very strange thing, by the way. You know, when you're born with a woman twin, it's like a fulfillment of you. But that woman isn't fulfilled. But Abel's two twins fulfills a woman, because two women are mirror images of each other and fulfill each other. So this was a complete womb of two women and a man, rather than the incomplete of one and one, which seems complete, but it isn't. Now this is convoluted, and I'm just throwing these out so that you can follow this and study this on your own if you're interested, because these are three deep concepts here. The concepts of Nazir, the concepts of Sota, and the concepts of Yibum, all covered in the most preliminary aspects of the first few of the birth of the creation of Adam, Eve, and Cain and Abel. And the strange thing is that Hevel, this is how I got this, by the way, because when after Hevel died, Adam knew his wife again, and they had Set, Shin Tov. And you know, when you do substitutions, the Shin is like a Samach, and the Tov is like a Tet. So I changed this in to Samach Tet. And that's the root of Sota. And the whole idea here is that Eve was a Sota, as expressed through Set. And continuing in the line of the Jewish tradition. And so we have Adam as the original Nazir. And this relationship between Nazir and Sota is the relationship between Adam and Eve. And this is no different than the entire relationship of Shimshon and Delilah. It's different, it's later expression of the same thing. So this is a deep thing for me, and the normative Judaism has this all covered, you see. They don't want you to get into the deep relationships, the deep sexuality, the deep intellectual understanding of what's going on. They don't. They want to keep you on the normative level. That's fine, but it isn't fine. So, it's just an introduction to some of this. Were you familiar with the names? Nazir, Sota, Yibum,